Hey guys, it's Tricky Nick here. I was outside gardening today when I suddenly realized there was a pack of angry zombies in my backyard trying to get in and eat my brains. Plants vs. Zombies, a classic franchise that people reminisce about when they think of the late 2000s. If you didn't play this game on your Nintendo DS or iPod on long car rides, then you didn't live. But since the release of the classic Plants vs. Zombies we all know and love, PopCap has undergone new management, causing them to pump out such games as... and even... Luckily, the original Plants vs. Zombies has remained pay-to-win free throughout this time and is still held in high regard by the fans of the franchise. In fact, this game was so successful it became PopCap's most popular franchise, boasting millions of copies sold. However, today I decided to take off the nostalgia goggles, take a critical look at Plants vs. Zombies, and see if it holds up after all these years. The first thing I immediately noticed when booting up this game again was how incredible and iconic the music is. Laura did an incredible job designing a unique sound that fits this game so well. There are songs like Grass Walk that combine a bright and cheery tune with the ominous sounds of zombies looming nearby. Absolute bangers like Loon Boon, which I will stand by as one of the best pieces of video game music ever. And overall just catchy songs like Graze the Roof and Brainiac Maniac. Even the more modern takes and remixes of these scores can't match the unique feeling you get when you listen to the music from this game. As great as this music is though, you can't dwell on it for long because zombies are on their way. Due to the incredibly small development team that worked on Plants vs. Zombies, there was a lot riding on its developers to design recognizable and fun characters for the game, and I think they delivered. Plants vs. Zombies takes a very cartoonish approach to designing its characters, while still taking into consideration that they need to be easily visible during gameplay. First, taking a look at the plants, I think these are the most strongly designed characters in the game, mainly because almost every single plant required totally new colors and shapes to create. Every plant is so expressive as well, from happy to stern to stoned, you can almost tell exactly what each plant would be like if you were to have a conversation with it. Tilda has been using plants a little too much if you catch my drift. The plants also have a great variety of shapes, sizes, and colors. As you fill the yard with more and more plants, it really gives the place a lively feel, which speaks to how well crafted the plants were. Although if I don't finish a level off with perfect symmetry in my yard, I usually have a hernia. On the zombies side of things though, designs are a little bit weaker. For one, the zombies are much less expressive, as most of them have the same dumbfounded look. But the main issue I have with the designs of the zombies is that a lot of them wear the same or very similar outfits. I think making male and female versions of every zombie might have been a simple way to add some great variety to the base zombies that the player is faced with so often. This becomes less of a problem as we move further into the game though, as more and more zombie variants are introduced. All that being said, a big plus of the zombies' design is the jagged lines. This design choice perfectly contrasts the more smooth lines used for plants, with them both complementing each other well. And then there are these abominations from Zombotany, which I refuse to talk about. Yet. The main mode that Plants vs. Zombies focuses on is the adventure mode. This is where the entire game kicks off, and it gives you a basic rundown of what's to come. It's nice that the developers start the player off with a smaller area to work with, as it makes it easier to learn how the game works. The main goal of the player is to collect sun and produce plants to place on the lawn in order to defend against the onslaught of zombies. Once we've got the basic gist of how the game works, we're thrown right into it. Adventure mode takes place over 5 areas, each housing 10 levels. House. Get it? Because you're at a house? After each level, we receive rewards like new plants, tools, HIV, and the occasional note from Dr. Zomboss, the zombie leader. But what about the actual areas themselves? Starting off pretty basic, Area 1 is a daytime lawn, or a lack of lawn. And we don't encounter many difficulties apart from a few slightly tougher zombies. What we do encounter though is one of the most iconic characters in the Plants vs. Zombies franchise, Mentally Unstable David. Crazy Dave is a neighborhood friend, and he introduces us to the shop of the game, which just so happens to be the trunk of his car. After battling through Area 1, we reach Area 2. Here, we're thrown into nighttime areas that don't allow us to get sun from the sky, forcing us to use various fungi to complete stages. There are also new zombies like screen door zombies that make us utilize certain plants such as the fume shroom. Then for Area 3, we're back in the daytime, this time with a new twist. Rather than only having 5 lanes, we now have 6 lanes to deal with. On top of that, the middle 2 lanes are a pool, requiring the use of aquatic plants and or regular plants on lily pads to defend. As a kid, this area would always give me an issue, because of that stupid zombie riding a dolphin, it would always kill me. I should have just thrown a plastic bag into the water, that would have stopped it. Following this, we still have to deal with water, but this time it's accompanied by nighttime and fog. Oh joy, lack of sun and lowered visibility. Yeah, Area 4 is pretty tough, especially that one level that's complete darkness except for a few flashes of lightning. You really need to know your plants in order to complete this area. It really ramps up in difficulty. But after all this, we get to the final area on the roof of the house, where we can't place any plants without first placing a pot. In addition to this tedious process, we have to utilize plants that have a catapult rather than shooting straight forward to account for the slant on the roof. If you try to use a pea shooter, it's only really going to be able to hit the tile directly in front of it. Once we get through the war zone that is the roof though, we have to battle Dr. Zomboss, the leader of the zombies, in an epic finale for the game. Once we defeat Dr. Zomboss, the adventure mode of the game concludes and we get a special music video to watch, which is ironically one of the weaker songs in the game. Like seriously, they have all this great music for the actual in-level stuff, but then for the grand finale, it's just sucky. With that aside though, I always thoroughly enjoy playing through the adventure mode. At the start of the game, you're given a low number of plants in order to learn how they work, but then each area of the game introduces more and more new plants and zombies that force the player to constantly adapt new strategies to progress. The game was balanced so nicely that the plants have counters for every zombie that is thrown their way. For example, the pole vaulting zombie can be countered by the tall nut, the digger zombie can be countered by a split pea, the list just really goes on and on. This also acts as a way for players to learn how plants work and how certain zombies interact with them. However, the game never lets you use the same group of plants for too long, as there are constantly new zombies to counter the strategies you come up with, and you're also being awarded with new plants every level. Furthermore, the limited number of plants allotted per level creates another layer of strategy, as it forces you to analyze which zombies are in the level you're playing, and choose plants to account for each one. This would, in theory, leave the player with no dull moments in a playthrough if it weren't for the difficulty of the game, more specifically the lack thereof. While I feel it is imperative to give the player a base knowledge of how the game works, the difficulty really just doesn't pick up until the last 2 areas. This may just be because I've played through Plants vs. Zombies so much, but I only game overed once or twice from start to finish. It's a real shame that it takes so long for the difficulty to ramp up, because once you're at the pinnacle of the difficulty, it's a great balance between challenge and fun. But apart from the sometimes lackluster adventure mode, we have a lot of extra content that the game offers to make up for it. On top of the 50 level extravaganza that Plants vs. Zombies features, it also contains minigames, puzzles, and a survival mode. Starting off with the minigames, there's a lot to unpack here. The first minigame is Zombotany. Oh my god! Alright, fine, I'll talk about it. These planties, zomblants, these things are abominations. I hate them. I shouldn't have to worry about a zombie spontaneously combusting and taking out an entire row. Certainly a cool minigame concept though. Then we have Walnut Bowling, which is just like the level featured in Adventure Mode, where we use rolling walnuts to mutilate zombies in various ways. There's explosion, whacking, getting run over. The list is finite. Moon Moon playing in the background alone makes this minigame worth playing. Then we have Slot Machine, where we gamble with sun while also fending off pesky zombies. Along with nurturing a gambling addiction, this minigame is not that difficult. It's Raining Seeds is a fog level that forces us to rely on falling seed packets to defend ourselves. If we don't act fast though, the seed packets disappear and we're left for dead. Symmetry is not encouraged here, and I hate it. Begooled is a play on words in reference to PopCap's first game Bejeweled, and it plays very similar to that. Instead of matching 3 jewels like every mobile game ever, we need to use plants to create matches while the zombies are attacking, making the game slightly more high stakes. The game ends when the player makes 75 matches, or the zombies eat your brains out like cereal. We also have Invisigool, which is one of my favorite minigames. It takes place in the nighttime area of the game, which conveniently no longer has any fog. The catch though, the zombies are invisible. This is unfair and ridiculous and rage-inducing, but it's also fun. It forces you to utilize visual and audio cues, which keeps you constantly engaged with the game. This is the only game mode that actually absolutely requires headphones. Seeing Stars is an odd minigame where we must plant star fruits in the shape of a star. If we're unable to form the shape of a star before the zombies get to us, we lose. I don't really get the appeal of this one, it's just kinda weird. Fun fact though, you can actually make this game go on forever if you beef up your defenses and you leave one star fruit out. Anyways, Zombiquarium once again is a reference to a previous PopCap game titled Insane Aquarium. In this zombie-focused minigame, the player needs to feed brains to snorkel zombies before they starve to accumulate enough sun to buy a trophy. The logic is a little odd here, but sure I guess. It's definitely my least favorite minigame. Begooled Twist! Wow, really original. I wonder what this is based off of. Same as Begooled, but with a clockwise movement to match the plants. Surprisingly though, this one is much tougher. Next, we have Big Trouble Little Zombies, yet another minigame I really enjoy. In this mode, zombies are smaller, easier to kill, but come in much larger waves and are much faster. This trade-off is a nice way to try to spice up the gameplay, but it's pretty easy once you have your defenses set up. You would think that the Portal Combat minigame is a reference to Mortal Kombat, but it's actually a reference to the game Portal. If you've ever played the game Portal, then you know how this game works. Zombies and plant projectiles that enter one portal come out through the other corresponding portal. Call 'em like you see 'em is a rooftop minigame that duplicates any plant you place throughout the entire row, but way more zombies appear as a result. There are 4 Gargantuars here! Bobsled Bonanza is a pool level that somehow has 4 rows of ice on it during a hot day. Bobsled and Zomboni zombies quickly begin to attack, and it's up to the player to work with the space they have to melt the ice and take out all the zombies over 4 waves. I don't know if it's because of the plant layout that I initially chose, but this minigame was ridiculously hard. Zombie Nimble Zombie Quick is literally just Plants vs. Zombies at 2 times speed. This is literally just a normal feature in Plants vs. Zombies 2, I thought, but it's a minigame here, I guess. Whack-a-Zombie is like Whack-a-Mole, but with zombies coming out of graves. As long as you click fast, this minigame is super easy. Last Stand starts the player off with 5,000 sun, which we must spend before 5 waves of zombies thrust their beady eyes at us relentlessly. We can't use any free plants, and we receive 250 more sun per wave to add to our defenses. This is a more traditional tower defense style minigame, and I honestly think it's good the entire game isn't like this. It would have gotten way too boring. I like the more reactive style Plants vs. Zombies adapted. Zombotany 2 and Walnut Bowling 2 are very similar to the first versions of the respective games, just with some extra plants and zombies that make it more difficult. Pogo Party is a roof level with extra pogo zombies. That's kind of a cop-out for the second to last minigame. At long last, we reach the final minigame, at least in most versions, that being Dr. Zomboss's Revenge. This is a much more intense version of the final battle from Adventure Mode. Dr. Zomboss boasts double health and dispenses zombies faster than a shady weed clinic. But on top of all of these, we have some version-exclusive minigames, which are unfortunately unavailable to me on my PC. That being said though, almost all of the minigames that are accessible to me are really fun. I like the small changes to the original structure of the game. They all feel unique and enjoyable. Except Zombiquarium, I just don't understand the appeal to this one. Other than that though, the minigames of Plants vs. Zombies are a very welcome and beloved addition to the game. Along with the minigames though, there are also 3 puzzle modes that each have multiple levels. The first of these modes is Vase Breaker. As the name implies, this mode sees the player breaking vases that will give them undisclosed items. Green vases guarantee plants to place down, but brown vases could be anything. Is that a thermonuclear bomb? There's also the incredible enjoyable iZombie, where we actually play as zombies and try to reach all the brains at the end. Eating plants will award us with sun to purchase zombies with, and eating all 5 rows of brains is a win for the player. I really love the change-up that this game mode offers. Playing as the zombies is very interesting. Whoever designed the layouts of these levels though, I need to introduce you to the tried and true method of symmetry, you psycho! The final puzzle mode is Last Stand, which is the same as the Last Stand minigame, just with more levels. Survival mode is probably my favorite mode outside of the normal adventure, as it's a game that sees the player surviving an endless number of waves of zombies. This is so much fun due to the fact that the difficulty has no cap. so you can get to a point where there's literally tons and tons of gargantuars coming at you. If the adventure mode is feeling too easy, this is a perfect place to get your fill of brutally challenging waves of zombies. On the contrary though, the earlier waves can help you get better at the game if you're still struggling with some levels. Last but not least, the Zen Garden is just a fun little place to tend to plants and earn some gold. There's not much gameplay wise here, it's just a calming little break from all the action throughout the game. It's also a great way to get some gold to buy yourself some new plants and extra seed slots. So, after replaying through Plants vs. Zombies, how does it hold up these days? Well, I still really enjoyed it, but I've noticed a couple more minor issues than when I first played through the game. I really like the concept of plants fending off onslaughts of zombies. It's just so unlike any other tower defense game before it. And while others may try to emulate it, there's just nothing like Plants vs. Zombies. Seriously, the ripoffs of this game are awful. Along with that, the game just looks great. Every character is designed meticulously in order to convey their personality. Speaking of personality, this game just oozes it. Every single UI menu, minigame name, achievement, and more was cleverly done by the developers to perfectly fit the game. See, look at these gravestones. I like this. This is funny stuff. While there is a lot to love about the game, I have some minor issues with it. The biggest gripe I have with this game is how easy it is once you've played through it once. Once you know what you're doing, you can essentially beat the game without any game overs. This also somewhat carries over to the minigames. I think some of them could have been tweaked to be harder. Despite this though, the game is still way better as opposed to the other games in the series due to the free-to-play nature of it. In Plants vs. Zombies 2, many of the more unique plants from the first game are locked behind a ridiculous paywall. And while Plants vs. Zombies 3 is yet to really show its true colors in this aspect, I have a feeling EA is going to butt their ugly heads in and add a couple of in-app purchases. Along with that, the more personal touch PopCap put on the first game isn't seen anymore due to the corporate environment that EA forced PopCap into. This probably means that as long as EA owns Plants vs. Zombies, they will continue to drive it into its grave, spitting on all the hard work put into the first game. But those fish are to be fried at a later date. And until then, I'm Tricky Nick, and I will see you all in the next one.